Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's a nice day to saunter here, right? Like it's such a beautiful day outside. It's great to see everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Courtney Bryan. I'm the Executive Director at the Center for Justice Innovation, and I'm so honored to welcome you to this really special event. I first want to thank our public advocate, Jumaane Williams, for his longtime support, both of our work, of so much, but especially the anti-violence work that he has championed for so many years, and for your office's support in helping us to announce and launch the Street Action Network today, and helping us to imagine and carry out today's program. Another special thank you to the Brooklyn Public Library for sharing this beautiful venue with us, and for really underscoring how crucial it is to have spaces like libraries, and this library in particular, really the sort of lifeblood of the community. It's not only a place where you can find kind of quiet reprieve, knowledge, but also a place that brings people together from all walks of life to foster discussion and to launch new ideas into the world. And again, just want to thank you all for coming out today as our partners, our friends, old and new. You also share our commitment to building public safety, empowering communities, and creating true community justice. So I first want to take a few minutes to tell you about the Center for Justice Innovation. For those of you who don't know us, we work in all 5 boroughs and beyond, actually in the sort of metro area and around the country, to launch new programs and work alongside communities to solve problems, build safety, and transform justice systems. And here in New York, we work especially with the court system and government to reduce the use of incarceration, divert people from the legal system, and to improve community and individual well-being, and to foster safety and healing instead of harm. And in communities across the city, we're working hand in hand with residents, with many folks here today, folks like you all, and those who are directly impacted by the system, to reduce violence and promote economic mobility and strengthen communities. A lot of you know us from the incredible work being done by our team at Neighbors in Action, and SOS. And I'm going to ask you all, can you stand up, please? Yes. So it's Providence that today I decided to wear black, but then I thought, I don't want to just wear black. I'm going to wear this little bit of orange. And then our guys show up wearing the orange shirts. So it's a perfect combination for the discussion today. So they've really been on the front lines of the anti-violence work in Brooklyn for many years. One of the first organizations to focus on a new approach, a community-based approach to reducing and preventing violence, gun violence and other violence in Brooklyn. You may have seen they were recently honored by Brooklyn Org, formerly the Brooklyn Community Foundation, with the Spark Prize for their work. And I want to thank our team for the work they do and for being here in support today, and particularly the great Anthony Rowe, where are you? For your hard work and commitment. Neighbors in Action, and particularly its gun violence prevention program, SOS, Save Our Streets, shows that it's crucial for those with lived experience to lead communities in building safety and justice. SOS, along with now dozens of community violence interruption programs across the city, work tirelessly to stop and prevent violence by engaging those who perpetrate violence, those who are harmed, and those who are at risk, by changing norms around violence, working with young people, and creating meaningful educational and employment opportunities. So the main act, let's get to the Street Action Network, which we're focusing on today. It complements the work of SOS, particularly in our organization and other violence interruption programs around the city, by adding a crucial new element to our anti-violence work: community-based research. Research is part of the DNA of the Center for Justice Innovation. When I think about our organization and sort of what sets us, I hope, a bit apart from others that are doing good work in this area, is that we really bring research and data combined with real-life practice, real-life experience of people who are living in communities, who are working in courts, and that powerful combination together to bring new ideas. It's only, though, been in the last few years that we've really recognized the power of combining a community-based approach like we have at SOS with the tools of traditional research. SOS is staffed and run by people with lived experience in the legal system and street life. Our research team has historically been staffed and run by, well, the kinds of folks you may associate with research. All love. Folks with PhDs and probably more experience with academic journals than the streets. But 6 years ago, we began a paradigm shift. Basaime Spate, who began working with the center as a violence interrupter, and who you'll hear from shortly, pointed us in a new direction by asking a few questions of us. What if the center put the tools of research into the hands of people directly affected by the issue we're studying? What if we trained community members and those with lived experience to become researchers? Basaime pointed out that our research team was never going to get the trust of the community members that we wanted to interview about gun use because the researchers were not from the community. Sometimes the most obvious truths are the hardest to see. That conversation gave rise to what we call participatory action research in the field. Soon, Basaime brought on his longtime collaborator, Javonte to the team. Our research changed almost immediately. As trusted members of the community, Basaime and Javonte were able to get young people to open up about why they carry guns. They were vulnerable. They talked about how afraid they were. They showed a much more nuanced and more truthful picture of gun violence. And today, we take the next step to launch the Street Action Network, led by Basaime and Javonte. Let's applaud. Thank you. The Street Action Network will take this groundbreaking approach to research to a new level by launching new participatory action research projects and translating the lessons learned into innovative policies and solutions to address gun violence. In other words, Basaime and Javonte will be leading a team of researchers from the community with lived experience who will not only conduct the research, but use those findings and their lived knowledge of the community to foster the relationships that we need to get truly revelatory insights. Ending the gun violence crisis will take many approaches. The incredible work by SOS and other community-based anti-violence groups will continue to be vital. The Street Action Network's research will provide information and vision we've never had access to before. With another summer upon us, we need all hands on deck. And that's why we're so grateful to Jumaane Williams for continuing to put a spotlight on this issue and his support of the Street Action Network. So before I introduce Jumaane, I'd like to take a minute to share a brief video with you all before we start the program, so I'll pause for a moment for that.
I'm Basaime Spate, Director of Street Action Network.
Javonte, Director of Street Action Network.
Street Action Network brings together rigorous research, community action, and policy change to people who are involved in gangs and street economy.
Academics and street people all working together as one, helping the community build up self-awareness and what they want to do with themselves in life.
The goal is to give opportunity to educate and save lives. I grew up in a foster system, and that wasn't very well for me, so I joined the Bloods early at 14. I traveled around different states around with my street networks, and I so happened to land in Brooklyn because this was the start of what my street network was birthed off.
My experience with street networks is kind of different for me because I've been around it my whole life. Yeah, I was brought up into it.
There's this program that came in this area of Crown Heights, and it was called SOS, Save Our Street. One of my key people who was part of my street network, LaVon Walker, he was the founder of it. They started to do this job of violence interrupters, stopping shootings and retaliations in our neighborhood.
I was like his first participant on his caseload when it first started in Crown Heights. So I kind of been around it from the very start.
I really was interested and want to contribute to my community as well. So I joined in 2012 as a violence interrupter.
So we definitely need your support too, all right, bro? All right, man.
Gotta Make Their Home Heaven is a research project that I started in 2020. When I got on, I came in as security. And I was watching this academic team gather research. But the problem was I wanted to quit because of the image of that academic team, because the streets wasn't buying into who they was looking like and they didn't have the experience. This is where Elisa and Andrew brought on and asked did I want to be a researcher, and I said yes.
That's right.
I was able to switch that team into a more fitting image of the street. And the first one I brought in was Javonte.
You gotta come with respect. You can't just go in anybody's neighborhood just explaining the work and they think they just gonna wanna do the work. They gotta know who you are, they gotta believe in you gotta have trust. Image is a big part as well because they gotta understand you gotta have something that they want you to talk to them about.
We was gathering data, but my data was different from with the academic team because they didn't have the experience of the street or guns or gang culture. And then we started to see the difference in the data. And we was able to go in and interview 330 shooters around NYC.
A new study from the Center for Justice Innovation.
One group of researchers in Brooklyn set out to find why young people carry guns.
So with us now are 3 authors of the study.
The 2 Battlefield was definitely a lot of exposure came with it, a lot of press, webinars, all that good stuff happened off of it.
There's a need for a comprehensive understanding. The research, I love it so much because it's informative. It's educating people on both sides, right? Research sets the tone for policies, for laws, for recommendations. Research is a mind changer. What we're doing now is kind of the steps of what LaVon was doing, grabbing guys off the street and giving them opportunity. We didn't know that research will open this door to where we got today. So we would love to create that opportunity for other guys in our neighborhood and see where that takes them.
I'm somebody that did a huge 360, a huge transition. If I could do it, anybody could do it.
We're very confident the solutions that we have created will save lives. It will decrease shootings. It will give young men and women of color of opportunity.
So you're going to hear from Basaime and Javonte with Jumaane Williams shortly. I do want to just take a minute to acknowledge and thank Elise White and Rachel Swanner, who they're quietly sitting over there as the folks with PhDs with the experience in academic journals. So thank you all for your leadership and support. So now I'm thrilled to introduce our public advocate, New York City's public advocate and longtime voice for Brooklyn communities, Jumaane Williams.
Peace and blessings, everybody. How you doing? Love and light to everybody. Thank you for coming out. I'm gonna
really keep it short and sweet because I think the magic is going to be in the conversations that we're going to have. But I know a lot of times we're hearing people talking about, really being tough on crime, but they're not really serious about safety. And so we're really trying to have serious about safety conversations. We often miss the point. Imagine getting the answers from the people who are closest to the problem. That should have been what we were doing from the beginning. And what we've been trying to do in my office and what I've been trying to do as a council member, shout out to Jeffrey Sevilla, my Deputy Public Advocate for Justice and Safety, is really try to move the conversation toward what's really going to work in the long term and really try to keep people safe. Very often if I'm in a crowd with older and younger folks, I'll ask the younger folks if they know people who have been shot, and they'll say yes. And I ask the older folks if they know people who have been shot, and they say yes. And I said, well, that shouldn't be, because the reason I was told there was so many police officers in these communities from decades ago was because they were going to stop the shooters and keep people safe. So those two generations should have different answers, which says to me that doesn't work. Or if it would have worked, it would have worked already. And so we can't just be trying to arrest the children of the people we arrested 2 decades ago. And so we're just really trying to figure out how we can fund, not just fund, but structure a different look of public safety. And so I'm excited about this because it's a big part of getting the crisis management system expanded. I actually first heard about it through SOS, but I have felt for a while that actually it stagnated. Some of the work and the creativity has stagnated as people were just trying to, which I understand, trying to get the contract, but this is innovative work that I think has to be built on the infrastructure. So with that, am I calling folks up? Yep. Oh, come on up. Okay.
Yep.
Peace. What's up?
How you doing, brother?
Peace. How you? Everything good?
How you feeling?
It's spiffy, man.
Thank you, brother.
You're looking good.
It's part of the image.
Yeah. Okay.
Selling it.
Now, one of them, y'all had no sleeves on your joint. On the New York one had no sleeves on them.
Yeah, we working out in the gym.
Okay. So look, I want to ask anyone could answer. Why does it take so long for people to really ask the people who are really impacted? Like, why does it take so long to try to figure out? If you try to figure out what's happening in the street, ask the street. Like, that shouldn't be something that is too revolutionary, to be honest.
I think, for me, it's like how structural racism play so hugely in American culture that even places like CJI, who's trying to remedy those things, are also trying to caught up in that design of how things are, because there's only one set design when we're talking about structural racism, right? So when I'm talking about that structure, it don't allow, especially like me and Javonte, in those rooms. Those doors are shut to us. I think it took so long because it was nothing created like PAR to be able to come in and allow us to come in those spaces and be able to show our expertise and show what we can give through that opportunity. So I don't even truly think that, I think this is a blessing how this has worked out, because again, it wasn't a door open for us. I feel like me and Javonte had kicked down a lot of doors to get to where we are at today. But for us, it's just the mindset of racism is so strong. The idea of it is it's become so part of our everyday lives that it's our norm, so we don't really realize it. But when we are talking about history, and we constantly talk about history because our history show up in our present and our future, and we see it and relating that, I think those constant conversations will start to allow guys like me and Javonte in the door so we can start talking about these things.
And for me, just as some of my brothers said, another part is also working with amazing people like Elise and Rachel, giving us the chance to actually listen to our solutions and not be stuck in their ways, and actually let us take more of a lead in what, giving our community what they want. Because me and my brother, we know what the community, we live there. So just having people behind us that's willing to change and not be stuck in a traditional research way and willing to learn our methods was amazing. So having the right people behind you and not being stuck in their ways is a huge, like, part
of that.
Part of that process as well.
And I forgot to say, I have Tourette's syndrome, so you may see me move a little bit.
It's all right. It's all right.
Everything school's a fan. I'm pretty excited. There was some good news that came out last night, so I've been hyped. I've been hyped all day. So I'm interested to know, this is not specifically about gun violence, but in the spaces that you've been able to go in that you weren't in before, what was that like for y'all? Were you comfortable? Was it hard for them to respond? Like just in those spaces that normally wasn't where you was at?
For me, it was both ways. It was in that space of the professional nonprofit research policy world, but also on the streets, right? Because we coming in trying to learn research and how this system is set up and going about it the academic way, right? Trying to fold in that. But for us, how we had to gather the data from the streets and how the streets allowed us to gather that data didn't match how academic research goes about that approach, right?
Can you give me an example?
For example, it's like when I first started in our security, the academic team was going through early in the mornings to go out in the projects to gather data on gun violence and gang. For when I actually joined and started to really take my initiative and really going where I know where the shooter's at, the emails that you would send in about how many you interviewed and all these things, these would come probably like around when they get done like 3 or 4. When I started and we started to supervise, my emails was coming around like 12, 1 in the morning. So Rachel and Elise wasn't used to that. That wasn't their norm, right? So even Rachel, I remember her saying like—
8 in the morning, getting coffee?
She's like, well, I'm getting these emails 12, 1, 2 in the morning. I'm like, well, that's the time the shooters are out. So just understanding that miscommunication, that misunderstanding and whatnot, and learning on both sides. It's teaching them as well about how the streets operate and how we should go about it, especially on safety reasons, but them informing us on how research should go so that the data itself is credible, right? On the street side, it's like my community and where I grew up at and whatnot is dominantly a blood area, right? I've been there for years, so it's generational there, right? For me, and coming in that area, because I'm not really from that area, I came there when I was younger, so I had to do a lot of things, get my status, my respect up, so I could have the word that I have today, to even bring research in my neighborhood, meaning that I'm bringing a whole new system of things. So I'm about to really change this whole system that guys are used to every day with this research and bringing in new faces like Elise and Rachel, having them at these—
Adding some color.
Yeah. Adding some color. But even having them at these, at my blood meetings, right? Having them, having them at my homie's funeral who got shot and killed and whatnot while we was gathering research, so they could experience what this street thing is like and what we experience every day. That is really our norm, but now we're learning that's very traumatic. But on the street part, it was like even with my guys, who I know every day, Tana herself is like battling with them on like, Doc, what the hell are you doing bringing these white people in these areas and stuff like that, or in these spaces or whatnot? Like, you don't know them and stuff, and even arguing, fighting. All I can say is like, I can't explain it right now. I have a big picture, but just like, roll with me, trust with me. And it was a lot of challenges and fighting and going back and forth with them, and the consistency of it, and from that time, 2018 till now, like, the work that we have done has paid off for guys to buy in and see, like, oh, you've been seeing this from back then. I could mess with you on this way. I'll mess with you. So they really just started to buy in towards this whole research, this part thing, and to these new faces as well.
What was that for you?
You can say that one more time? My boy is talking for a little minute.
Coming into the new spaces that you probably have not been in before.
Okay. So what I could say is Drop snatched me literally off the corner. I was hustling. And like 2 weeks before I started working, Drop was like, yeah, I'm gonna get you a job, bro. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And he literally called me down 2 weeks later. I'm like, damn, nigga, I ain't know that fast. Like, you know, excuse my language, but I'm like, damn, I ain't know it was that fast. I'm like, slow down, I don't know if I really want it, because I'm kind of doing good in my little hustle, my own little entrepreneur, you know, thing I had going on. I kind of was doing all right, so I'm like, dang, I wasn't that ready, but my brother, like, he's really, like, I love him. Like, this been my friend about 18 years now, and this is one guy that I know if I'm doing better than him, he's never gonna hate, and it's the same way. Like, and I know I will never ever meet nobody like that ever in life. So, by me saying that, he literally grabbed me and dragged me there to CJI. Like, bro, you need this job. I don't care what you talking about. You need this. And of course, when I come, of course, I meet Elise, I meet Rachel, and I'm so, like, I can't believe I'm talking right now. Elise and I could tell you. I was looking at them talking to me about this, like, what the hell is they talking about, Drop? All I'm over here is how much I'm gonna get paid. You know, so, but just getting in the spaces and getting the language and understanding what research is, because I ain't know zero squat about it. So just, you know, Elise and it was somebody named Angie when we first started as well. They kind of gave me the confidence in doing the work, like the academic part, the learning the methods, the RDS, and like the data.
That's RDS.
RDS, respondent driven sampling. So that's just like, it was the method.
Which is huge for us, again, because like Javonte was saying, like we both dropped out of high school in like 11th grade, both hustled and all that. So for us to be in this space and didn't know nothing about research, couldn't tell you barely how to even spell the word research, for us to know these methodologies and know how to utilize them in research is huge for us, right? It's huge to be in this space.
I have a master's, I don't know what it is, so. You know.
But yeah, just to sum it up, let me finish though. So just like, so yeah, it was very, you know, different for me. I actually damn near broke down in tears, all type of, like, I've been here for 6 years. I've been through so much since I've been here, like, and just to be on the stage talking to you guys, it's so crazy and surreal to me. Like, it's crazy because I literally wasn't talking at all for like the first year when I met them. Like, it was so hard for me to talk. And like, I'm in a much comfortable space now, I could say. Like, I definitely learned so much, and I know I got a lot more to learn, but I'm much comfortable now than I was before. That's all I could say.
So, just sticking with that, what convinced you?
What convinced me?
If you was in that life, you was doing anything, what helped you say, I might be able to do something?
Well, actually, like I said, like, I always been around the work, and I know I can't do any type of job. I always knew I wasn't no hard-working man, no hard labor type of guy. So
I just want to separate hard work from hard labor, because he probably was working hard.
You know, working, let me say, like, physically, hard labor, like, you know, I wasn't no type of construction worker. I know I couldn't do nothing like that. So taking this opportunity just to learn, research, and also doing it with my best bud, that's what, like, keep it going. And I feel like that's what it really was. Like, my brother pushed me, and as I started doing the work, I grabbed the love of it, because it's like I'm really dealing with people that I could relate to. And it's like, who else could they learn from better than me? You know what I mean? So that's what keeps me going.
So, what were the top two things that we can glean from the last research you did?
From the last research, I would say, for us, the major thing for me is like, out the research, is just for us to, the voices of the community are in those spaces now, right? So people really start to understand like what's happening on the street, right? The knowledge and the wisdom that's on the street and the expertise is mind-blowing. It just never had the chance to be in the space to show that, right? For us, it's just like, taking that knowledge from the research, the policy recommendations or whatnot, and for me, it's the biggest part is bringing the street networks into the fold and having them at the table, right? 'Cause they, again, or for me, it's like, if we're talking about solutions and really trying to find that out, that comes from the people in the community who experience those things, right? We know this for a fact, we say this all the time, but we never open the door to let them in to really horn on those opportunities, show their expertise. And for us, I think what me and Javonte trying to do with the Street Action Network is bring those voices in and then have those and internally analyze those more broadly, because that information is God sent. It's God sent, and it's coming from the heart. Like Javonte is saying, like, yeah, we could have been hustling on the block and messing up our neighborhood to this day just because of who we are. But it's like the love that we have for our community and for the street network. Understanding like why our street network even exists in the first place.
And we don't want to be moving like hypocrites, saying one thing and still out here selling drugs. So we don't want to be confusing no youth out here neither.
What was the top 2 things you found from the last research? What was the top 2 things that you'd want folks to know from the research, the last research that was done?
So like some of the findings, like the typology, like of shooters we found out about. Like it's about 4 types. So you got your image shooter, you got your one that carry his gun for hustling, you got your guy that's going to carry for protection. You have one that's going to carry, you're just your shooter, just somebody that's just going to have it on them and they coming outside to do one thing. So the typology was one of the best findings we found in our research. That's just one that I can come up with right now. That was important.
That's very important because when we're talking about shooters, people just talk about it so broadly. They don't know how detailed and in-depth what that actually looked like, and don't know the true knowledge of the use of the tool. In our research, we found out the underlying things was safety, but we also learned the utilization of that tool and how they use that tool. And I think for us, knowing that information is where you can create solutions for.
And fear too. My fault, brother.
No, I was saying you might need a different approach depending on what shooter you are.
Exactly. So you can know how to deal with them, you know, by the 4 typologies.
You were saying fear, or were you about to say?
Yeah, the fear is another one as well. Like a lot of kids, they won't admit it, but once you break them down and they get vulnerable, a lot of them is out here, they have fear, whether it's with police or it's where they live at in their own society.
And so what led you to take that direction originally?
In research?
No, in the life, hustling.
Just what made me like just stop, or what made me?
What made you start?
What made me start was just like product of the environment, like whatever. I see my boy right here doing what he doing. He lit. He got drip on. He got money. He got cars. He having the girls. It's like that's the first thing you're gonna gravitate to when you like in your hood. You're like, oh, this dude got everything I want, and he doing that. All right, I want to hustle. So it's like just becoming a product of the environment. Some people want to go to work. A lot of people just want to grab the fast life. I want to do what bro doing. And that's just what I was around, so I wanted to hustle. I want the fast money.
When you ask that question, I don't think, like, for me, you don't have a choice in that. Like, for me, I ain't have no choice. Like, I grew up in the foster system, but the reason I went into the foster system because my mother was on drugs. My father got shot. And he died. My mother OD'd on drugs, so I never got to meet them. I was left in an abandoned building, and then I went into the foster system. And the foster system was messed up, going in different homes, a lot of sexual assault and these things. So for me, it was like those systems that was already created was already unsafe for me. Right? So when I went to go seek safety and protection and support, it was the only thing I seen around in my neighborhood and within my culture was gangs that was providing that. I just so happened to like the color red. But thinking like, I thank God I did make that choice on joining that organization because the foster system left me for dead. That's why I left. Like my street network, my gang had took care of me more than the foster system ever did, right? Even though I moved from different states, but I moved on from different states on the dime of my network. I didn't know these individuals, but we are under the same umbrella from Florida to Georgia to North Carolina to New Jersey to New York. It's just when I got here, this was the realness of it all and some real brothers that I have from my previous experience, what they really stood on business and what this thing was really created about, and took me in. So I owe the work that I'm doing and controlling that narrative on how we talk about gangs in America, I owe that debt to them to like fix that and really speak truth to that.
What's been the reception to like the folks who have the levels of power? What's been the reception to law enforcement, to elected officials, when you present this information to them?
I would say for us, we never really had the chance or the opportunity to present our data or have a chance to have a dialogue with police, especially in our area of Crown Heights. But as far as like politicians and policy makers and stuff, it has really been huge for us, right? To be, like, research has opened the doors for us to sit at those tables and have those conversations, right? Like the conversation that was at the table with you, that opened the door to meeting Congressman Dan Goldman, right? And then opened the door for us starting to build a relationship. And he's starting to learn about this work and learning about us and how that works. So that's huge for me right then in itself, to be in those spaces, to be able to network with other people who are in the position of power, to educate them on. So when they are making these crucial decisions about people's everyday lives, they're more informative on the truth that's really from the community and from the street.
I agree with my brother right there.
Well, it kind of sucks if we haven't been able to interact with law enforcement. So we gotta fix that, and they gotta get to see this data and this information. Have y'all had any interaction with them at all? Besides,
the interaction that we do have is in our neighborhood, and that's just like them and how they perceiving this new generation outside, and trying to like educate them and inform them on their engagement and on how they engage with them, on how they are receiving what they're receiving on the other end. But we never been able to like be in a space to sit down and really have an informal conversation about that.
How do you think it would be best to fix that? Because you need to have some interaction.
Me and my brother actually, before this started, we was thinking about actually, should we go and invite a police officer here? Like,
or we just go into the
Bloods meeting? I don't know about to the Bloods meeting, bro.
No, not to.
But not to no blood meeting. No. We thought about it though, for sure. We thought about
it's all over there.
Definitely thought about it though. Like, but yeah, we definitely gonna need the police support though, for sure. We know that.
I'm not throwing
That's
it
the
up.
next step,
You're always
though.
trying to get me throw up. Sledge always trying to get me throw stuff up in the air, and I'm not. But so
let's give a round of applause for Slash, because he's one of the guys who I was talking about when I made it in New York. He took me in. And he really showed what this beat thing is really about.
Yes. What's up, my brother?
I want to stick on that for a second, because I'm trying to figure out how is that. This is all the work is talking about public safety, yet there's been no interaction with law enforcement, who has been pushed to do all of public safety, which is part of the problem. Like, when people think public safety, they go straight to law enforcement, which they just can't do this by themselves. So why do you think that is? All this work you've been doing for how many years, and there just hasn't been any real conversations with law enforcement?
I think that's just the historical of like police in that system, right? We know that the start of policing was just from slave catchers, right? And then when it evolved to like more to the Boston area, they started wearing uniform and became more unified and more structured. But then again, those, as they did come, it is still placed in black neighborhoods. So it's like the historical fact of that relationship never been healthy. And always, we experience this constantly through the civil rights and how they killed us and hanged us. We experienced this in BLM and whatnot. So like, when it comes to conversation with cops, we are very hesitant that engagement is more or less, it's not public safety, it's more a militarized approach, right? Which is, of course, if you come in with that militarized approach, especially in these black and brown neighborhoods who have created these militarized street networks to protect them, of course you want to feel it's going to always be that, because that's what the setup of the structure is. It's never what we're actually doing here and having a conversation, trying to understand each other.
And I just would like just to stay on that topic, because not too long ago, SOS y'all just had an altercation with police, right?
With
Right.
dog.
So I feel like the police, it gotta be a type of guideline to it gotta be some type of respect, because seeing that police hurting other people that's really helping the community is just crazy.
Right.
That's just disrespectful, honestly. So I would love one day for us to all sit in the room with police and just clear the air.
It's interesting. It should be different. We got different mayors and stuff, but that's a different conversation. I don't want to make it
Yeah, I know. That's
too hot.
Yeah, one
It
day.
make it harder when you see police really jumping on SOS members who has really established themselves in the neighborhood and made a name for themselves while they're wearing their uniform. So the community is viewing this, so it's even more of a layer, you just stacking more layer on avoiding that interaction, because when it does hit, it's always a violent one.
What do you think is the biggest misconception that you think the public has about guns, why folks carry them, and what you actually saw in the research?
Like I said, like it's all different. People carry for different reasons. Like everybody, I don't feel like everybody just wake up ready to come outside to kill somebody. You know what I mean? So and that's kind of what me and my brother doing this research for, to show the policymakers and the lawmakers that is not the way y'all think it is. Like, you need to have a little more deeper thought and why people is carrying.
It's not
weapons.
just people waking up to kill somebody. That's not what
It's deeper than
Our
that.
research has showed it's not random shootings.
Yeah.
These are things that are thought out and historical parables and stuff like that. But I think the misconception is like people always focus on the small picture of when shootings are in the paper and stuff like that, especially how the media is talking about that shooting and who the individuals they're talking about. They never look at the bigger picture of how structural racism plays a huge part on that. When we're talking about poverty and we're talking about the lack of education, the lack of finance opportunity, the medium wealth gap between black and white.
Is that Senator McCunningham in the back? Shout out to Senator McCunningham, new dad.
Yes, sir.
Q&A from the audience?
Yes.
Okay. I got flag. We're going to do Q&A for anybody. I don't know if y'all had questions for me, too, so we could do that.
we do.
Okay.
That's what he did.
My first question for you, Mr. Public Advocate. Can you tell us a little about your path into working with New Yorkers on community safety and well-being?
Oh, well, I've been black a pretty long time. And so I have all those experiences. And I always wanted to affect change in communities. Growing up, this is a lot of violence. You know, I always say my heroes when I was growing up were Spider-Man, X-Men, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They were just all heroes, people I thought were fighting for folks. My dad, may rest in peace, was big on black history. My mother, who ended up raising two knucklehead children by herself, really had me watching things I didn't want to watch and going places I didn't want to go. But it really instilled in me the history of black America in particular. So it was always something I wanted to affect. And violence is always something that I just saw happening just over and over, whether it was state violence, police on civilians, civilian on civilians, or like how do we fix this? And then we were told that the police was actually supposed to fix that problem, but it never seemed to be fixing it, just adding more and more people to it. And so it really took me a long time to really figure out how this could actually work, because I used to be like, oh, maybe we just need to retrain police and a whole bunch of stuff, and then I realized, well, actually it's just how we're using the police is the fundamental problem. There's no training going to fix that because they can't solve it by themselves. And then it's trying to dig in to find the best ways to address this, and it's been very difficult. I think now, thankfully, at least there are people who at least understand a little bit better what is he trying to do, because before it was just everybody, oh, you just care about criminals, you don't care about, and it's like, really, no, how do you really dig deep? And so I really got into this political stuff to really affect change as much as humanly possible, particularly around violence in the communities, black and brown violence. And then I figured out, if you address all the other problems anyway, the violence is probably going to come down. So it was all interconnected.
What challenges have you faced, and how have they changed the way you think about the work?
What challenges?
Yeah.
Well, I've been black a pretty long time.
That's a challenge in itself, right?
That in itself. And like I said, I have Tourette's syndrome. That's been, because when they had the big abuses of stop, question, and frisk, one of the reasons they cited as stopping people was furtive movement. I'm like, shit, all I do is make furtive movements. So, so that could be a problem. And I had locks, love hip hop, so you move to those spaces. Yeah, the locks, they home in the bag, they say. But it's just difficult. So even, I mean, I don't think people underestimate me speaking now, but they did before, which I actually found very helpful. When people underestimate you because they can let you in and not know what's about to pop off. But so that was, I found helpful, but it was also, trying to convince, and even my folks, even the communities I represent in the city council, when we're doing the abuse, stop, question, frisk, having to walk people through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and why it's actually trying to keep you safe, because fear is a huge thing, and fear is used a lot to separate folks and to allow bad things to happen in the community. So it's a big thing, trying to really just figure out how do I address the fear that you have while showing you what I'm trying to do is actually impacting that. And it takes time and conversations to have that, because it's difficult. So it's still a challenge, but I think we're in a better space.
Definitely relate. Speaking of being black a long time, how do you think growing up as a black man in NYC has given you a unique perspective and expertise in what you do?
I never thought about that. I'm thankful the Most High made me black, so I'm very proud of that and the heritage I have. But I think it's a combination of that and having Tourette's. My mom raising us by ourselves. I think it's what I know I do have is a lot of empathy. So I try to move through spaces with empathy of why somebody might be doing something, and trying to figure out how you can address that. And I think regardless of whether somebody agrees with me or not, much less gun violence, but from the MAGA Trump person, I try to say, okay, what is behind this human being's journey that got them here? Because their journey took them here, my journey took me here. How can we figure out what on that journey can we learn from? And what can I address whatever's concerning you right now? Because there's something that you're scared of probably that's causing a problem.
What role do you think the Street Action Network can play in this? As we talk about, like, in partnership with you, where do you see us collaborating? If you do, and do you have goals?
Man, this is the work that's being done from research on the streets is really pivotal in changing how we talk about public safety. As I said, I actually think law enforcement has a role to play. I think they're best used when particularly there's an acute crisis happening right now. But what I found is, like, I always liken it to, if a patient is sick and they just stay in triage, you're never gonna get well. And so we've been using a triage solution for a really complex problem. And I think the network can really help us illuminate what that complex problem is. Some people just move on data. I don't think you ever just move on data. You need a mixture of things, but people move on data, and showing them the research that backs up what many of us have been saying anecdotally is really powerful to move policy. So my hope is the partnership really works with getting this data and this research to the people who can really move the needle, and really explaining why this is actually serious about safety. This is going to get the goal of making people safer, which is what you say. Now, there's some people who really don't want that. They're just trying to get elected, and so a 30-second soundbite is more helpful. It's a little tougher, but the folks, the New Yorkers that I've found have been really receptive to the message. This is going to be really helpful in moving that so they can move the policymakers.
My last question is, what is some advice you can offer us and these young black men that me and Javonte got in this room who's coming up in this field?
Well, what I tell the young people just in general is, like, this is what I wish I told myself, like, you're actually living life. And so life is happening. So I didn't realize till I was much older, this is it. You're not just necessarily planning for it. This is life. So you have to really realize this is the life that you are making. You're writing your book right now. And also, generally, I tell young people, it's not specific for this, but just, you're gonna fail at stuff. Like, it's just gonna happen. And we don't tell young people that, so they think something's wrong with them when they fail. I'm talking about bad failures where you're gonna cry and nobody's gonna know kind of thing. That actually happens. It's gonna happen multiple times, and you can get past that. But for people who are organized and doing the work, I always say it is a long haul. It's a marathon, and so just know that the end is over there, but you might not see that in particular. But you can celebrate little victories as we move forward. It's really important to do that. If it was easy, it would have been done. There's a lot of forces that are pushing back. And I always say, nobody's responsible for this kind of system you spoke about. That's a lie today. We didn't start it. That's black, white, brown, however. But all of us have a responsibility to change it. And so you just do what you can with what you have where you are, and you find that spot and rock out.
I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Jumaane. Oh. You want to say some words, Assemblyman? Come on down, Assemblyman Brian, come here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jumaane been my hero so long that I went to Brooklyn College. I said, you've been my hero so long I went to Brooklyn College like you, got elected like you, and now I'm a dad like you. So backpack gang on deck. Shout outs to our public advocate for the incredible work he's doing on gun violence, both as an advocate, but also as an elected official, and now citywide. Thank you so much. I see some good friends in the space. My guys I used to work with at the Center for Court Innovation. Jock, what's up? What's up, King? Good seeing you. I see some old students as well. So for me, this is really a homecoming in some ways, right? Just seeing older students, older colleagues, and being in a space now where I'm able to also implement change from Albany from a legislative perspective. Just really thrilled about this new approach to how we're trying to solve larger, complicated issues. I think the public advocate said it best. We've been using some of the same tools for a long time, and it's time for those tools to mature a little bit, and using folks who've been closest to the problems, closest to the experiences, is always the best approach. So I just shout out the Center for Court Innovation for always being innovative enough to figure out these creative solutions using data, but also using a pragmatic experience of balancing real experience on the ground. I'm excited to be a part of this project, excited to continue to work with you guys in this capacity, and looking forward to Senator growing up in a place where we have an absence of gun violence and people can resolve their issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just, we're about to close out, is that what we're doing? All right. No, I want to say, I always make sure I split the gun violence conversation. We spoke mostly about the demand. I always talk about the supply and the demand. It's one of the things I wish we could is stop the infusion of guns that are coming here to begin with. That's going to take Congress to really make some movements, and it is just frustrating to see people who know what the right thing is not do it. But we talked a lot about the demand, and I think it's New Yorkers Against Gun Violence in the House, so I just want to shout them out. It's important for me because I want to be 100% honest. When I first started doing work and trying to figure out 10, 12 years ago, New Yorkers Against Gun Violence, it's white-led, so I'm going to say that, but they were very focused on, I'll never forget, they were talking about the mass shootings on the news. And we were like, you need to focus more on who's affected every day, black and brown folks, and how we address particularly handgun violence. And they made that pivot, and that's what you want allies to do. So I just wanted to shout that out and thank you for that. So thank you, CJI. I really appreciate it. Y'all want to say some last words?
I just want to give a shout out. Can my guys, y'all know who y'all are, can y'all stand up? Because for these guys just to be in the room is a step.
Kevin, stand up. Kev.
Appreciate y'all for real. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Love y'all support. Y'all know we about to up it once this ends. You already know.
All right, and my brother from another K Baines not here, but I just want to make sure.
Yes, K Baines. Give a shout out to K Baines, definitely.
Peace and blessings.
My mother made it. Hey. Great Sledge made it. Yeah, I was about to curse you out, boy. You know once I'm here, I can't answer. But yeah, you're here. I love you. I love you.
Peace and blessings, everybody. Love you, Mike. Thank you so much. Thank you.